my day, excuse me. I'm the one responsible. I made it just this way to make myself some pictures, see what they might bring. I think I made it perfectly, I wouldn't change a thing. La la la, la 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 la, la la la, la 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 la. Welcome to my happiness, you know it makes me smile. It pleases me to have you here for just a little while we open up the spaces, try to break some change. And if the truth is told, they will never come again. La la la, la 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 la, la la la, la 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 la. Welcome to my morning, welcome to my day. Yes, I'm the one responsible. I made it just this way to make myself some pictures, see what they might bring. I think I made it perfectly, I wouldn't change a thing. La la la, la 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 la, la la la, la la la.
Thank you, Sally and Jamie. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So many people. Yes. Do we have anybody new here? I know we have somebody new visiting today. And I know you have your red heart. And welcome. First thing is to start out with, tell them this doesn't happen by mistake. We have a lot of people here that make this happen. We have our prayer chaplain, Carmel.
Who?
I'm sorry.
Not today.
Candace. Our guest speaker is Carmel. Our board member of the week is Mary Ellen. And if we have kids come in, Joe will take over that. And our hospitality host is Ann Miller. And our spick and span angels are all of you. So everybody plays a role. But we couldn't have all this wonderful stuff up here if it wasn't for our technology guru, Mark Swink. And then, of course, you have your platform person, Nora Clemens, who happens to have the best name in the world because it's the same name as Sally's great-granddaughter. So we're going to next. We're going to have our heart song.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love, there is only love, love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Thank you. Our Red Heart welcome. If you are new today at Unity of Bremerton, we welcome you in a spirit of love. We want you to know, no matter where you are on your journey of faith, you are always welcome here. We know the world is a better place when we are willing to share our hearts. We give you this heart as a symbol of the steadfast spirit that lives within each of us. And we ask you to carry this symbol as a member of the Red Heart Fellowship. Let it be a reminder that the love of God is always with you and to share your heart wherever you go. The Red Heart, as a symbol of fellowship in the world, can spread love one heart at a time. Let the movement start here. And for those visiting, we ask you to come at least 2 more times and hear the different speakers that we have. We have different speakers as we search for a new minister. Now our Unity happenings. Most of these you'll find in your bulletin. Our guest speaker today is Carmel Pennington and her title. That sounds like a yay God. And her talk title is Zest for Life. And I know she has that. And our musicians are Sally and Jamie. And house musicians. And our upcoming events, March 4th. That can't be next week. They're coming soon. Reverend Karen Hamilton. And our musician is David Johnson. And on March 6th, the first Tuesday of every month, is Suzanne O'Clair with her New Moon Circle Spiritual Star Talks. Includes a mini reading for $15. And if you want more information, there's a sign-up sheet in the fellowship. On March 10th is the men's group led by Ron Savage. Includes breakfast for $5, and there's a sign-up sheet in the fellowship in the back by the windows. On March 11th is Reverend Joanna Gabriel and our musicians, Sally and Jamie. And now for our board member weekly report with Mary Ellen.
Good morning. Good morning. We want to remind you that we are live streaming our service. We ask that you keep your conversation down because it is being picked up, especially during the candle lighting and paper burning part. Also, please be sure your cell phones are off or on vibrate. North Kitsap Unity has a weekly meditation on Tuesday evenings. The next one is Tuesday, February 27th at 7 p.m. The topic is Spreading Peace with Song and Meditation. Come join Carol Glenn and her guitar as we spread peace through the universe with special songs and meditation. And I think what was mentioned, the next men's group meeting is Saturday, March 10th, with a $5 donation if you would like breakfast, and sign up in the fellowship hall. The topic is advanced meditation. We want to remind everyone that prayer request forms are available in the pocket on the back of the seats. And you can put them in the prayer box up there, and or put them in the offertory bag as they are passed around. The chaplains are also available to pray with you after service on Sundays, and usually the chaplain is in the back of the room in the corner if you're looking for the chaplain. Please stop by the table in the fellowship hall and see all the sign-up sheets as we have events that we have coming up. Let's see, there's also a sign-up sheet for our upcoming craft fair, and you can sign up to participate or bring items to be sold. Let's see, our family fun night was last night. I missed a great night, but I think they're planning on having another one soon. It was from 6 to 9 p.m. They had a lot of fun snacking and playing games. The next family fun night is Saturday, March 24th. Anyone interested in this event can sign up in the fellowship hall. Bring your favorite card, dice, or board games and some snacks to share. Our next board meeting is March 11th. The board will continue to update you weekly. If you have any questions or concerns, please see a board member. The celebration for life for Don Cowdery, Grandpa Don, will be on Sunday, April 21st at 1 p.m. at the Disabled American Vets Hall on Burwell Street in Bremerton. There will be a potluck reception following, and please bring a dish you can share with others. Don's wife, Florence, is allergic to flowers, so she believes Don would prefer any donations to be made to the Disabled American Vets or to the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. And there's more information. I believe the information is posted on the bulletin board in the fellowship hall. Thank you.
Now we're going to light the Christ candle, which represents the God light in all of us. We'll say our mission statement together.
We are a welcoming community supporting our mutual quest for spiritual truth.
And our invocation.
There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
Great, thank you. Okay, now it's time for handshakes and hugs. And remember that we have fellowship afterwards, so.
Give me a hug. Yeah, just right by.
I got bronchitis. Last week. Good morning. Oh, yeah, right now.
Morning.
How are you?
Sharon.
Mom.
Not more than I thought. Hey,
Good, how are you? Morning. I'm Marilyn. Morning, how are you?
hi, you. How are ya?
Oh, you're so warm.
Happy Sunday.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Give a little light, it comes back round and I feel alright. Ah, life is good. Ah, life is good. I give a little love, give a little light, it comes back round and I feel alright. Ah, life is good. Ah, life is good. A couple more times. I give a little love, give a little light, it comes back round and I feel alright. Ah, life is good. Ah, life is good. I give a little love, give a little light, it comes back round and I feel alright. Ah, life is good. Ah, life is good. Today's daily word is my story. I mentor others by sharing spiritual lessons I have learned. 12-step recovery programs have long recognized the healing power of sharing our stories. I have learned that my stories are not simply my own. They are meant to be unique contributions to the realization of the new state of consciousness that Jesus describes as the kingdom of heaven. An adage from recovery programs share, "We are only as sick as our secrets." Whatever I am afraid to share becomes a dangerous darkness within me. I don't need to share everything with everyone I meet, but I need to be willing to share freely as I am guided by Spirit. I see myself through divine perception as a spiritual victor and overcomer, not as a victim of life's circumstances. Telling my story is a powerful way to share the spiritual lessons I have learned. From John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Today, I mentor others by sharing spiritual lessons I have learned, and God blesses us. Create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, O Lord, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and renew right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew right spirit within me.
Okay, this song is a Jimmy Buffett song I learned a long time ago. It's about his grandfather, James Delaney Buffett, who was a sea ship captain. And the talk today, I think it's about enthusiasm. And this man had a love and an enthusiasm for his life, just like his grandson does. Never use to miss a chance. Climb upon his knee. Listen to the many tales, life upon the sea. We go sailing back on Bremerton, talk of things he did. World was just a day away, the captain and the kid. This world's gone from sailing ships to Rick Mom's backyard. Never could adjust to land, although we tried so hard. We're both growing older then, wiser with our years. So when I came to understand, horse's heart still. Died about a month ago, better fill the air. Though I cried, I was so proud to love a man so rare. He's somewhere on the ocean now, place we ought to be. One hand on the starboard rail, he's waving back at me. Never use miss a chance, climb upon his knee. Listen to the many tales, life upon the sea. We go sailing back on Bremerton. World was just a day away, captain and the kid. The captain and this kid.
Now let's give a big welcome to Carmel.
So sorry. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. I feel so welcomed. Is this one on?
No.
Everybody's telling me to do something different.
Listen to Mark.
Listen to Mark. Okay, thank you.
Listen to Mark.
I want to welcome you into my world today. But first off, I want to thank all of you for inviting me here. I feel so blessed to be back in all your presence. It's just been such a joy all morning to get hugs and see smiling faces and look in each one of your eyes and see myself. You know, I see myself in each one of you, and I am so happy to see what has happened here. It's so beautiful. You've done so much to make this a wonderful church and a wonderful place for community to come together. So thank you, Cindy. And now I'm going to apologize to Cindy. I had a talk decided. I was going to do Divine Order, and I was going to title it Doo-Doo. And at the last minute, I changed, and Cindy was very patient with me. But let me tell you why it was going to be doo-doo, and why I changed. The reason I went with doo-doo for divine order is, as many of you know, I've been a part of this church for, I think it was like 14 years I was part of this church, and part of that I spent with the youth. And we would go to Go Bar for training. Yes. And Terry, lovely Terry, who is now working with the youth at Linwood Unity, we would always chit-chat, and when things would go awry with the kids or anything that was going on in our own personal lives, we would always say it was called doo-doo, which meant divine order, divine order. Anything that looked like it might not be going the way we think it should, we would bless it with divine order, and sure enough, we would find the lesson in it somewhere, for the kids and then for ourselves. We practiced that all the time. So I thought that was a great talk. I had most of it written, but doo-doo stepped in. And that was my mother. Bless her heart. She's 95, and many of you here know her. She's a beautiful, wonderful lady. She looks a little bit like Betty White, and she kind of has the same kind of humor. She's very outgoing and boisterous, and she's only about that tall. I'm exaggerating. She became very ill a couple weeks ago, and it was a moment of realization that I could have lost her very easily. She spent 2 days on the floor in her house and nobody knew that. And then came down with the flu. So I rushed in, and I witnessed doo-doo in my life. But then I knew there was divine order in it because I'd been writing about it. So I stayed with her for a week. We mended her back, thank goodness. You know, the paramedics were there, everything was fine. She checked out, and we got her over the flu and got her hydrated and back on track. And so I came back home, and as I was driving home, the 2 hours from my mom's, I started to think about my talk, and I realized it was divine order, but I realized that my mom had taught me so much about having a zest for life. Even while she was at the worst she could be and was hallucinating and everything that was going on in her life, there was a level of humor and zest somewhere in there. And I believe that's what kept her going through all of it. I mean, she thought one of the paramedics was her grandson. So, you know, you see these ways that the brain works. And I think that comes over many years of working with the brain to let the doo-doo go. You know, let the doo-doo go. So we switched it to Zest for Life. So thank you, Cindy, for being patient with me. So this morning's, thank you, Marilyn, for reading the Daily Word, because it was spot on to what I'd like to do today. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story and how it pertains to unity and how unity has guided me over the last 40 years of my life. So 40 years ago, 40 years plus, I was sitting at a memorial service, and it was for my father. And I was so confused. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there, and I couldn't understand what was going on. And I was concerned about my father burning in hell and other things, because that's what I had been brought up to somehow believe. But the one interesting thing my father did before he passed was he asked my mom to have his memorial service done by a unity something. And my mom couldn't remember when it came time to call the unity whatever. And so she really didn't know if it was Unitarian or if it was unity. And so she opened up the phone book and she picked one, and it happened to be unity. So Grover Thornsberry did my father's memorial service in Seattle. And I sat there in awe, because what was coming out of his mouth was not what I had been taught. It was so different. I realized my father was a child of God, and it was going to be okay, and he was going to be okay, and that his sin, the word sin was never brought up in his memorial service or anything along those lines. I fell in love with what this man had to say. I went on with my life. I was a teen. Fast forward 10 years, I meet the man that I'm going to marry, and his wife, excuse me, that would be, his mother insisted that we get married at their church that they had grown up with all these years. And I said, sure, I'll do what, do what it takes, and I look forward to meeting the minister. And so we went in and we sat and we talked and we went through all the interviews and did all the stuff, and we went to the chapel and we had the service, and it was wonderful. And I remember through the whole service, all I could do was look at the gold letters on the wall in the chapel, and it says, "Be still and know I am God," in big gold beautiful letters above the minister. And I fell in love with all the things he was saying too. I thought it was amazing. I looked at life in a whole new way. Be still and know I am God. What does that mean? I'm getting married, but what does that mean? This is the honest to goodness truth. And I wanted to know what it meant. Isn't that cool? Yeah. I wanted to know what it meant. Well, that was Grover Thornsberry that married me. It's amazing, isn't it? I didn't find that out 20 years later, that it was the same man, just out of chance. You know, that those...
Chance.
Yeah, divine order, it's all voodoo. So, that was my first two experiences with Unity. My Unity introduction continued, and it happened to be with the Daily Word. My husband's mother became very ill with leukemia, and she moved in with us, and so I took care of her, became her primary caregiver, and her request every day was to read the Daily Word to her. And so that's when I started to read the Daily Word every day with my mother-in-law, and it was a blessing. It was such a blessing. And I forgot what I was going to show you today. Darn it. My visuals now. Okay, I'm going to do visuals. So what she gave me before she passed on, and many of you may have seen it, but it's a lucite square like this. And on one side it has a picture of Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore. You flip it around, and it has the statement that he wrote when he was 93 years old. Does anybody remember any of this? Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot it. So this is what it says on there. In his handwriting, too, which is what's really cool about it. I fairly sizzle. Oh, yes!
Oh, my God.
Thank you so much. I'm thanking her now. See, is this cool? Isn't that cool? Okay. So in his handwriting here, it says, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I love that. So, this was the third statement that rocked my world. The first one was, I am a child of God. The second one was, be still and know I am God. And then it was this. And so I put this on the windowsill for years. And I would see it, you know how things on your windowsill, you see them at first and then they kind of go away, and then you see them once in a while and they catch your eye and you clean them off, and then you remember they're there and you read it again and you wonder what it means. Wait a minute, you've all done that? Well, here's what's funny about it. She gave me that when my son was like 3 or 4 years old, and I have 3 boys, and my youngest son said to me like a year or 2 ago, I had mentioned something about this, and he read it off to me verbatim. I said, how do you know that? He goes, because it was on the windowsill, and I read it every time I washed dishes. And he goes, I think it's the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, yes, yes. He's like almost 30 now. So it's fascinating how these statements that we say repeatedly to ourselves do become ingrained, just like my mom. She has those. And I believe that that's what created her zest for life. You know, I'd say to her, Mom, it's good to see you. It's good to be seen. You know, she's got several of these that she repeats over and over again. Well, those are her personal mantras. What are your personal mantras? What do you repeat to yourself every day? It's good to be seen. So, on that drive home, I kept thinking about my mom. And I decided that yes, that plaque did represent what my mom was about, and that's why I changed my talk. Because I knew that her strength and her fortitude that she displayed to me, which inspired me in every cell of my body, and her crazy humor, even though she was so gravely ill, she had this internal zest for life. Just an internal zest for life and longevity. I mean, she's just amazing. So I started to ask myself, what exactly do those words on that plaque mean? And I kind of broke it down into 3 categories: compassion, courage, and self-worth. And I think that those are the elements that my mom has lived by and has instilled in me. And I'm so appreciative to it. And so compassion I kind of hooked up with, I fairly zeal with enthusiasm, right? You know? It's because compassion is about being kind. And not being kind just when you're going to get something from it. It's being kind all the time. You know, not when you're going to get something back. You choose to be kind on a daily basis, every moment. I think the other thing that's important with compassion is gratitude. I think compassion comes from you when you're simply just grateful for being alive, grateful for being in this moment, grateful to see another who you haven't seen. Your heart just opens up wide and you're willing to work from that place of compassion and kindness because it's all that you really are. The other just becomes an illusion that we get caught up in, all this external stuff that's telling us we're something different. So the other thing that I thought of was courage. Courage. Spring forth with a mighty faith. That takes courage. It takes courage to look at faith straight. You know, just look at faith and say, You know, we use faith all the time in our verbiage, but do you really think about faith? It's the absence of fear. So courage truly is the act of faith. But if faith is knowing that it is all doo-doo, right? If everything is in divine order, then anything that I'm going through in this moment, I can face with a strong spine and an open heart. When my mother lay there on the floor and I wasn't sure what to do, I went inside and asked. Why? Because I have faith in something greater than myself. And I know that whatever is supposed to happen in this moment, if I stay clean and in touch with God, then so be it. And then I move on to the next moment. I take each one. I don't sit in fear. If I'm sitting in fear and worrying about, oh my goodness, you know, I can't do this, I can't get her up off the floor, I can't do this, and what's going to happen, and if I have to call an ambulance, and none of those things would help that moment. I had to be there totally for my mother and be present in that moment. That was important. Courage. Courage also has to do with boundaries. Setting boundaries for yourself and those around you. I didn't get this for a long time. And as a chaplain for many, many years, 12 years, I didn't always get it. I didn't get that I could set boundaries for who I am. I can still be loving and kind and hold space for you, but I don't have to have you be part of my world to that point, because what ended up happening is I broke down. And now I know I can build myself up, I can have boundaries, I can love and be compassionate and kind and caring, and I don't have to become frail myself, because I need to stand strong for those who I love and who I care about around me. That's important, and that's all part of courage, because you got to speak up. got to speak up and do it with love and kindness. The other thing that has to do with courage is letting go of things that you can't control or change. It's a huge one. And how I handle this for myself is that I ask. I ask for guidance. Is this for me to do? Is this for me to do, or am I taking someone else's job? Right? Sometimes we jump and we think we can do it all. But you know what? If I'm doing it all, then I'm not giving all these wonderful people the opportunity to do it. I read the Daily Word for how many years, and I love listening to Marilyn read it. I mean, I think it's the greatest thing in the world.
It is.
And even though they thought you were me, I was the most excited to hear that you were the chaplain today. I almost got tears in my eyes when you told me. She says, I'm it. I went, yeah. Then they told me it was me, and I went, no.
Speak up.
She had courage to speak up. Yes, good job. The last one is self-worth. And this is a biggie. This is huge. Self-worth has to do with self-love. It does, big S, yeah. Self-worth is to do the things that ought to be done by you. And quite often we don't do them because we don't have self-worth. Because there's a little voice in our heads that says we're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We don't know enough. Oh man, have I heard that voice my whole life. I still hear it. But what I do then is I give it something else to think about. I flip it around. And you've maybe heard me say that I stick it on a Lazy Susan. It's one of my favorite projects. If I have a problem or a doo-doo, or if I'm even looking at something about myself that I don't like, you put it on a Lazy Susan. Because what it does, and this is just a visual, but what it does is it allows you to turn it. And you begin to see it from other perspectives. And you continue to turn it until you see it through God's eyes. And then at some point in there, you see it through God's eyes and you go, I am worthy. I can change this situation. Or, this isn't mine to handle. And I'm just going to sit with it and know that I've done my very best. I've tuned into what I know is my intuition and listened to my messages, and I will move on from here. It's having courage to do that too. That gives you self-worth. One of the things that I do every year is, and I started that with Unity, is with Lent, I get out my little black book. I have a first edition Charles Fillmore Lent book, and I do my 40 days, and I write in my journal. Well, a couple years ago I switched, and now I'm using another book, but it's a 40-day process, and it's 40 days to oneness, embodying oneness. And so I was 30 days into it before I went to my mom's. I didn't finish. And I start mine around my birthday because Lent is when Lent is, but for me, my circle around, all the planets in the world is on a different schedule. So I start mine about my birthday time, or before, and I run my 40 days. And I've been doing it for years, and those of you around me know that. And this year I started to write my own little book. So I rewrite each day, and so that when I'm older, like my mom, I'll be able to go back to this little black book and remember these 40 days that I spent with myself for my own personal self-worth. It revitalizes me. It feeds my soul. And it's a practice. And I think self-worth comes out of practice. Getting on your mat and meditating every day. After you do that for a while, you have self-worth. You know why? Because you made an effort to do it and you got it done. You do the things you say you're going to do and you get them done. That's what gives you self-worth. It's crazy. You can think of all these other things. It's the voice in the head that's saying, you didn't do that. You were supposed to get that done. You didn't do it. Oh, but I have these other things. I'm going to go do this instead. Isn't this more fun? But if you're concerned about your self-worth, go get that other thing done first. It changed the way I perceive things, especially moving through the 40 days. So I'm going to start my 40 days back up tomorrow. Just so if you want to check in with me, let me know. I'll let you know how things are going. So those were the questions I got when I asked myself what this statement meant. So the one that kind of, at the end, it was like, the things that ought to be done by me, is that like my life purpose? Is it me doing what I'm supposed to do, the big aha? And I thought, geez, is it really all about that? And I got home, and on my computer, and this is the way doo-doo works, this statement was on my computer when I got home from my mom's. And I'd love to read it to you. And this is when I asked the question, what is mine to do? What is my purpose in life? I asked the void. What if I told you that you fulfilled it when you took an extra hour to talk to that kid about life? Said the voice. Or when you paid for the young couple in the restaurant. Or when you saved that dog in traffic. Or when you tied your father's shoe for him. Your problem is that you equate purpose with goal-based achievement. God or the universe or morality isn't interested in your achievements, just your heart. When you choose to act out of kindness, compassion, and love, you are already aligned with your true purpose. No need to look any farther. I turned the computer off. Because I had gotten my answer and I needed to not look any farther. So, once again, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I sat and thought for a while, and then I burst out laughing. Oh, I was laughing. I said, you know what, my mom is a spiritual badass. And you may laugh, but I Googled it. And this is what I found when I Googled it. Spiritual badass. Number one, they send out love to strangers. Number two, they are always seeking out the lesson. Always willing to learn. They know that happiness is a choice. And I added number 4. Most important, they leave sparkles wherever they go. So, the truth is that I know several spiritual badasses. Grandpa Don was one of them. Absolutely. Marilyn's one of them. Mr. Fillmore was one of them too. If you really think about it, actually they both were. They started something in the midst of something that didn't make sense. They did have the courage to stand up and say, I feel there's something more than what we're doing here, and there's a new way to look at it. Spiritual badass. The truth is, they all are that, and so are each and every one of you, because I know that. I know that about you. I know that deep within you, that's who and what you are. See, I believe having a zest for life is not always about being peppy, or proper. There we go. No, it's about being real and honest. It's about knowing who you are, speaking from your heart, and continually reminding yourself that you are a child of God. You are magnificent, a spiritual being getting a chance to play out your human experience in this lifetime. It's about expressing courage and seeing life through compassionate eyes and asking daily, how may I serve? It's about waking up in the morning and saying yes to life, and saying to your magnificent God self, hey, what kind of magical, mystical mischief can we get into today? So I invite you to listen to that voice within and ask it often. Ask it all the questions that you need to ask it, and trust it. Trust it. And what I'd like you to do now is I invite you to close your eyes, get comfortable in your chair. And I'd like to read a little passage from a book called Boundaries and Protection. So I invite you to breathe in deeply. Release. Breathe in again and let that breath go all the way to the tips of your toes and to the tips of your fingers. Let it swirl around in every cell of your body. I will tell you so that you are clear. You are sacred and you are beautiful. You are magnificent. You may need to make amends to another in order to feel strong about forgiving yourself for what you are holding on to. You may need to listen. Do what you must do. Clear the path for a new way of being. Stay in recovery. Call in the brass to help with your health. Establish daily habits of exquisite self-care. They can be as simple as a smile at yourself and anyone who passes. Think of boundaries as the sensation of having a golden bubble around your body. It is filled with your own radiant light. Vitality comes from life force, which is, quite simply, the frequency of the miracle of life. It is truly almost beyond comprehension that we exist in a way we do, with bodies that sense and hands that give healing, language that can move our emotions, voices that carry sound, mouths to chew, wombs that gestate, minds that can create. We forget where we came from, how miraculous life is, and how it is growing and vibing all around us constantly. It is your responsibility to step into your humble, courageous magnificence. We begin as miracles, impressive, exceptionally fine, but we are taught to forget our miraculous nature. We are warned of the terrible danger of becoming self-centered and spoiled. We are told we're too big for our britches when we begin to show our strengths in early, undeveloped ways. The high price of these worn-out ethics is that we do not value ourselves as miracles. And we will not value others as miracles either. When we know our magnificence and miraculousness, we can know others to be exactly the same. Everyone is splendorous, and when a person acts from that place of radiant beauty, they stand out. The golden bubble is almost visible around them. When you step into what is golden about you, the essence of who you were before you were born, you will recognize it in others. Vitality hums throughout a body that recognizes its magnificence. Dear God, I make ready a place in my life for more God to be revealed. Through prayer, meditation, and right knowing, I bring God's energy into my relationships, my work, and to the health of my body. I am rising in spirit, cultivating the qualities of the infinite in all that I say, think, and do. And so it is. Amen. And I invite each and every one of you to open your eyes and return to the room. And I bless you. And please leave sparkles wherever you go. Namaste.
I think this song that we've chosen follows along very well with that. And please sing on any part of it you know, especially the chorus.
As soon as I find it.
Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes. I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, it's because you are near. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love puts me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. There is only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love puts me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love puts me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love puts me at the top of the world.
I'm not that short, Mark. You put this way down.
It fell when it got moved.
Oh. Okay, now it's time for our offertory time. So our we're gonna light candles during that, and so if you want, you can come up and Can you lead us in our so blessed? Can Cindy and Mary Ellen come up and Candace for blessing of the offering? Say our blessing together.
I do willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
So we participate in the Food for Life program where we collect food and give it out into the community. So is there anybody that would like to take our bag home for the Food for Life? Thank you. And now it's time for some good news. Is there anybody out there with good news? Jamie.
I would just like to say, for about 3 or 4 years, I've been able to pick up Don Cowdery and Marilyn not every Sunday, but very often on Sunday. And I just like how grateful I am that I had that opportunity. Because, oh my gosh, it's like a history trove between the two of them. We'd be driving down there, oh, this used to be here, and this used to be here, and this.
Well, I remember the days when he used to give me a ride to church when I was in need, and so, when we were over in Trenton Avenue, and, I miss that, and it'll always be a blessing to me. And I would like, Carmel talked about, what we are called to do, and the kindness and being kind. Well, sometimes what I'm required to do is accept that kindness with gratefulness and gratitude, and just say thank you, and to know my self-worth and my ability, my need for that. And my good news is that yesterday I was supposed to babysit my grandkids, and I wanted to go out to breakfast, so I ran up to go to one place, and there was a long line, so I decided to go somewhere else. And where I went, I go in and I'm waiting to be seated, and lo and behold, Gordon gets up and comes to me and says, "Nora!" And so, I was greeted with that, and, somebody was so glad to see me. And so, that was an example of, accepting that kindness and knowing that, wow, somebody is glad to see me, and the happiness of that. And we had a good visit, and it was wonderful. Any other good news? Sally?
Well, I'm going to miss arguing with Grandpa Don about how old he was. He always made it younger. And I would say to him, "No, Don, you are not. You are such and such." So I'm going to miss him anyway. He was just a light of my life, really. He's a wonderful man.
And it's no coincidence that I think that the spot that he was normally sits, be right next to Carmel, and that's where he would want to sit. And I'm sure that he's up there in heaven thinking of things that he could have said to her. And that's so just nice things to think about. Any other good news? Joe?
Well, I just want to say I'm grateful for Grandpa Don's playfulness and silliness, and I loved his fishing hat with the bobber and all those things. Only Don would wear that.
Laurel?
My girlfriend took me away for a fabulous week at a resort in Oregon this week, and we had a lot of fun. But I came home and yesterday got the official letter that says the cancer's gone, the tumors are gone. That sounds great. I said, I really want to go to bed. That's what I did.
Yes. Great news. Okay, and don't forget that we have Candace here to pray with anybody and just to say thank you, God, with you, if that's what you want to, the direction you want to go, and she'll be in the back here for anybody's time and attention. Now let's stand and take a hand.
Try your feet.
Just hold on like this because I got a knee now. Just some dinner? Sure.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, and we all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joy.